This is the Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast.
The following contest is scheduled for one fall.
Let's go nuts! It's Jimmy Nuts! Right out of the door!
With your hosts, Mark Martinez.
Because I'm the Mark and I'm awesome!
The Guru.
Today I'm going to break it down for all you simpleton sweat hogs listening out there in Can Crusher Nation. I don't mean to come out here week after week and toot my own horn, but toot.
And the English Professor.
It is I, the English professor from the County of Kings, speaking the English of the Queen.
Hey, this is former WWE Superstar Duke, the Dumpster Drosy, and you are listening to the Can Crushers Podcast.
And welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast Spotlight. I am the host, Mark Martinez, and I'm joined once again by the English Professor. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We have a great interview for our listeners this week, and it was sort of a last-minute stab in the dark type thing. Usually these things take a little while to organize. Our people, which is you, call their people, but this is really cool. This guy reached out immediately to you, right?
He did. He was like, yeah, let's do it. I think he might remember us from WrestleCade because we were down there and we kind of talked to him and he wasn't doing podcasts. He was waiting to get some things ready. And I thought, all right, give him a little bit. And then there was no WrestleCade. There's nothing else going on. All right, let's just attack him. And as you can see by the thumbnail, it is James Ellsworth, former WWE star James Ellsworth, who was alongside AJ Styles, Carmella. He defeated Dean Ambrose.
He did. Yeah, I just rewatched that, actually. And I watched his match with Braun Strowman, whom he did not defeat by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, I definitely want to talk to him about all those sorts of things. And I want to ask, because you remember Money in the Bank a few years ago. He was dressed up as Asuka.
Yeah.
And that got like a legitimate pop out of the crowd. And then James Ellsworth was on again. I don't know, maybe he appeared on Raw. I don't really remember. But what happened there? Why'd you bring this guy back and get a huge reaction from the crowd and then not give us more James Ellsworth?
That was probably the best thing on that Money in the Bank. John, you remember seeing James Ellsworth also in Big Time Wrestling before he got signed, like literally weeks before he went to the WWE.
Yeah. Yep. We have seen a whole host of future stars at some of these independent events, and James Ellsworth is certainly on that list.
So I got a list of questions. You got a list of questions. We can't wait to get him on the phone, but we got to do one thing first, John. What is it?
We have to hear from Collar and Elbow. Hats, hoodies, T-shirts, eye patches, vests. We're not making that up. They have eye patches and vests. It is really cool wrestling gear, Mark.
It really is. I have mine on right now, my wrestling shirt. I love it. You see me in Collar and Elbow all the time, and we have an amazing discount code for you. It's really easy to remember. It's Can Crushers. All one word, capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers, and you save some dough. John, how much?
You do. You save 10% when you use that promo code.
Which we on Can Crushers hate paying two things. So, John, what is it?
We hate paying shipping, and we hate paying parking. So you can do one of two things. You could look at it like, wow, this saved me shipping. Or if you're going to a ball game later and you want to park close, say that you paid the shipping, but Can Crushers and Collar and Elbow paid for your parking at the ballpark.
Yeah. I got my Killian's Irish Red ready to go. Here comes Al Snow, and then when we come back, we'll be on with James Ellsworth.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connects emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
And welcome back, Can Crushers listeners. We just heard from Al Snow over at Collar and Elbow, hats, hoodies, T-shirts, all sorts of great wrestling paraphernalia. Mark has his wrestling T-shirt on, so I put mine on so that we could be twinsies. We have on the line with us now James Ellsworth. This is so cool. James Ellsworth, thanks so much for being on Can Crushers.
Thank you for having me. I love talking to people, especially since, we've been all trapped in the house for the past year, so it's nice to have some human contact.
Right, I agree. James, Mark, personally met you at WrestleCade 2 years ago, and I asked you to come on the show, and there was so much going on. You're like, hey, just reach out to me, and, I put it on the back burner. I reached out to you, and then boom, lickety-split, like, everything just went so seamless that you're probably one of the easiest interviews that we've ever set up. It was 2 days, and then bingo bango, we're good to go. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man, I try to be respectful to those that are respectful to me. I get my guy that handles my bookings for me. He's real cool, and everything's like, you try. That's how it's supposed to be, Right. That's the way I look at it. So.
Right. So, before John starts doing the tough questions, I always like going to do the rewind a little bit, just to get some of your backstory and everything. Favorites growing up, because we'll skip through this real quick, but like favorites growing up when you were watching wrestling.
And Shawn Michaels became my favorite wrestler. Absolutely, still to this day, my favorite performer ever.
Nice. Shawn Michaels, John.
Yeah, that's good guy to look up to. He's pretty freaking amazing.
Well, it's cool for me, man. Like, since I get to WWE and my finish winds up being the super kick, and Shawn Michaels was my favorite wrestler ever. So that was really cool for me to be able to do that on WWE television and him being my favorite wrestler ever.
Did you know that's what you wanted to do when you saw Shawn Michaels? This kind of a decision when you were a kid that, hey, I want to be a pro wrestler?
Man, it's crazy. So I can't ever remember not wanting to be a wrestler. It's all I've ever wanted to do since I was very young. I always tell everybody, I can't remember not wanting to do it. I've loved it since I first saw it. Still love it to this day. It's just something that, I've focused my life on, being a fan and being a performer in wrestling.
So, go ahead.
Where did you get your first start at? Because later in your career, like right before you went to the WWE, we saw you at Big Time Wrestling in Altoona, Pennsylvania. But you had been around for a while.
You guys were at that show. That's cool. That's a really unique building for independent wrestling. That's a very nice place, the Jaffa Center in Altoona, PA.
Yes.
Yeah, So I graduated high school when I was 17 years old, and 4 days later, I signed up for wrestling school, Bone Breakers. It was with Maryland Championship Wrestling here in Maryland, and I winded up training under Axel Rotten, guy by the name of the Bruiser, Patrick Brinkton, just name a few. Those guys were like my main ones, especially Axel, who I winded up going on the road with, and he would train me on the road before shows and really taught me how to put together matches and taught me how to work. There's a difference between wrestling and working. Like, you can teach anyone the moves. Like, I could literally, I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter. They know how to lock up. They know how to do moves, So, but, he taught me how to work. So that's how I got my start.
So we've got just a few years on you, James. Obviously, you grew up seeing some of the same giants. We saw the Kamalas, the King Kong Bundys. Did that ever cross your mind? Did that concern you at all? And say, I'm not 6'5" and 300, 400 pounds. Did that ever create any sort of doubt in your mind that maybe you're not going to make it in the wrestling business because of the size?
I never thought about it. Obviously, people would tell me, oh, man, you're too small. Even my dad, when I signed up for wrestling school, like, I used all my money that I got for graduation. You know how, like, when you graduate high school, people pay you money?
Yep.
Like your friends, your family,
Sure.
like they all. So all the money that I made off my graduation party, I paid for wrestling school with. My dad was like, oh, my God, like, what are you doing? You need to use that for college. You need to, you're going to break your neck doing this wrestling thing. You're never going to go anywhere with it. It's just going to be a hobby. And I just was, I would ignore, like, until this day, I always ignore all negativity, man. Like, I don't pay it. Like, I've just been very blessed with thick skin. I don't pay attention to any negativity. Like, even stuff like that when I first started at a young age of 17. Oh, you're too small. This is just a hobby. You're not going to go anywhere. It just wouldn't even register in my head. And then, like you said, seeing big guys, like, everyone was always bigger than me. Even on the independents when I started, I was probably 5'7", 125 pounds when I started. Obviously I'm not dumb. Like I could see everyone's bigger than me, but I always, looked at the Spike Dudleys and looked at the 1, 2, 3 kids and looked at the Sam Houstons and the Mikey Whipwrecks and those guys. And I'm like, man, they did it. Why can't I do it?
So you brought up that, favorite wrestler, Shawn Michaels, but then that gaggle of lists that you just went off, did you kind of put yourself in that Spike Dudley role? Because you kind of do a lot of his things. If I would do a comparison, that's where I would put you.
So Spike Dudley is the one match I want to have that I never had. I don't think he's wrestling independence. I think he makes like appearances every now and then, but that's the one guy I want to wrestle because, yes, I would compare myself to him. I mean, I respect him so much. He took so many big ass whoopings in ECW and in WWE, like the chokeslam to the floor that the Undertaker gave him. I now know what that feels like, getting thrown out of the Royal Rumble by Braun Strowman, hitting that mat. So, absolutely.
I saw Spike Dudley in Monaca, Pennsylvania one time. Of course, Monaca's in Pennsylvania. You know that.
Right.
He did one of those over the top, just surf around. It wasn't a TV taping or anything, but he got thrown into the crowd and he surfed around. And then some of the crowd kind of weren't Dudley fans, so they literally just dropped him. And he just stood up and shook it off like, well, you guys are a bunch of assholes, but it was okay. He did the craziest shit in the world.
Oh, man, like, I love Spike Dudley. Like, yeah, man, he's so much respect for him. Like I said, guys like that are the reasons why I got a chance because, they were just really good wrestlers that knew how to sell, knew their role as a small guy, and, and made a career out of it. And, yeah, like, anytime Spike Dudley did that crowd surfing thing, I was always like, oh, my God, what if they drop him? And I actually crowd surfed at Fozzy on the first Jericho cruise.
Nice!
And believe it or not, like, smart mark wrestling fans really aren't like the biggest James Ellsworth fans. I don't know why. Like you would think,
makes no sense.
They would be, but yeah. So they were like hitting me and stuff like that. I was just laughing about it, and throwing me around real hard. Oh, I got you guys by accident. See if I can hop that off there. Hold on. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we're good. Yep. You're good.
I can see you guys. The one guy has like the John Travolta haircut, and the other guy has glasses and a hat on.
Exactly.
I prefer Al Pacino, but I'll take John Travolta.
Oh, I love John Travolta. But yeah, man, like, so I know what it's like to be thrown around crowd surfing by guys that don't like you. So
take us to match one. What are your memories of that, James?
My first match ever?
Yeah.
This is actually a great story. I think I may have told it on Talk is Jericho. So I'm 17 at the time, and at wrestling school, a lot of wrestling school do birthday parties, where families will come in and they'll have birthday parties for their kids, and they'll have a couple of matches. And I remember it was like probably September or October of 2002. I've only been wrestling 3 or 4 months. And this girl and I are the only 2 people at the school, like, training. And so they were like, okay, well, I looked really young at the time at 17. I looked every bit of 12.
Nice.
And so I remember the owner going, all right, well, we need to put a mask on you because you look too young, and then you're going to have to wrestle her. You just come out, bad mouth her, and then you're going to easily be a heel because you're bad mouthing a girl. And that girl at the time, her name was Alexis Lurie, and she went on to become Mickie James. So, that was my first match was Mickie James. I always, every time I see her, she brings that up or I bring it up because it's just hilarious. And yeah, that was my first match ever in front of people. Might have been like 25 people there for this birthday party. And it was a blast, man. I'll never forget it. But it didn't go too well. Like, she would forearm me, and the mask would go sideways, and I couldn't see.
So it clearly didn't fit you either.
No, but it is hilarious that my first match ever was an intergender match as well. You know.
So you bring that with you then to WWE. We've seen you in the ring with Asuka. Was that sort of an idea that you brought with you? Hey, here's something I did, in fact, in my very first match and on the independent scenes? Or is that somebody else's creation that they bring to you to have you wrestling women?
Well, once we got the awesome heat, we got off the Money in the Bank, which, what I mean by awesome heat is it popped the rating when we did the second one on SmackDown, because we always knew we were going to do the second Money in the Bank. Like, the internet, obviously, it's just stupid when you read these, dirt sheets sometimes or whatever. You're like, oh, well, they had to do the second one.
That's a shocker.
Yeah, like, a lot of the articles like, oh, well, they had to do the second one because, the first one got so much heat. No, we had the second one planned before the first one ever happened, because we knew it would pop a rating on SmackDown. If you go back, that SmackDown episode where they did the second Women's Money in the Bank ladder match did like a 2-6 or a 2-7, which nobody does a 2-6 or a 2-7 anymore. But yeah, like, so when we did the first Women's Money in the Bank, it got like a good heat. And I remember Becky Lynch was the first one. Once to Vince, it was like, oh man, you got to put me in the ring with Ellsworth. And I remember Vince saying, I think we're going to stay away from guy versus girl matches. And I wish right there I would have went in and said to Vince, like, what I said to him months later when we finally did the Becky Lynch match. I remember saying to him, am I really a threat to the girls? If I'm in the ring with them, they're going to kick my ass. And that's the thing. That's the entertainment part. Like, so, and, that's why I feel like it happened, because I wasn't a threat to the girls. I don't look like a threat to the girls. It's just a funny little character getting beat up by them.
Right. Let's reverse back to the Altoona Big Time Wrestling. My son was there, and young at the time, and you were very Rick Martel at that age. You had your sprints that you would run out with. To this day, he still calls you Spray Guy, and he's 14. He's like, I remember Spray Guy, but he was like, now he knows you're James Ellsworth because of AJ Styles and da-da-da-da-da. But he's like, I remember that. You almost shot him in the face. Whatever. What was in that bottle that you were trying to kill my son with?
I almost shot him in the face. That means that I missed. Now, anyway,
you did miss.
It would have either been some kind of like water or maybe real hairspray or whatever I just had around me at the time. But no, I would never hurt anybody.
No,
so if I was spraying it into the crowd, it was definitely water. But for a while there, I used to use real hairspray. That, like, when I would spray the baby faces, I would be too scared. I would always tell them to close their eyes, because I was like, look, it's real hairspray, so close your eyes. And some of them would botch that spot and keep their eyes open. So I made sure to put water in there, because my thing is, my best thing, the most proud thing I am about myself in wrestling is I've been wrestling 19 years now. As of this June 5th, it'll be 19 years. And I've never hurt anyone. That is my most proud, achievement in wrestling, is not hurting anyone at all. So, yeah, I don't even want to spray hairspray in their eyes. I don't even want to do that.
Right? We're going to bounce all over the place, because now you saying that you're 19 years into the business, and we'll come back. We want maybe a cool road story or something. But you also are training now, because recently we had one of your students on the show, because he's going to work an event that we're going to have in DuBois, Pennsylvania. We had Big Trouble Ben Bishop on, and he has a great story of how yourself and Mr. Dwayne Gill got him into the business.
Yeah, man. We were doing this show in Baltimore, and this is 2019. And I'm sitting there doing my gimmick table, like, with my pictures and shirts and all. And I guess he went up and he met Gilbert first. And Gilbert was like, do you wrestle? And he's like, no, man. He's like, well, who you here with? You're a student? He goes, no. He goes, go over there and talk to Ellsworth. You need to, like, wrestle. He goes, oh, well, I did think about getting in the business. And he goes, go talk to Ellsworth right now. So he comes over to me. I didn't even know he talked to Dwayne. He comes over to me, and the first question I asked him, I'm like, hey, man, who you here with? Who's training you? He goes, no one. I'm just a fan. I'm like, And this guy is a legit 6'10", a legit 285 pounds, good looking guy, athlete. And I'm like, well, do you want to wrestle? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I am interested. I go, well, we have a show tomorrow in Hanover, Pennsylvania. You want to come help set up and tear down the ring? And I'll start training you as soon as the ring's up. We'll have a couple of hours before the show. I'll start training you tomorrow if you really want to do it. And he goes, yeah, absolutely. So we traded numbers. And then after the show that night, we went to the bar. And I'm like, you really going to come tomorrow, man? He was at the bar at the after party. And he goes, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. And then, he was there bright and early that morning when we were setting up the ring and everything. And I was like, oh, my God, he actually came. And I started training him that day. It was September of 2019.
Yep. That's exactly what he said.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Mark, for those who haven't listened to his interview just yet, does his story check out with James Ellsworth's?
Exactly.
All right.
He didn't say the bar part because he was trying to kind of still be cool, but he didn't say that he went out and got smashed with James Ellsworth. But he just.
Well, I didn't say we got smashed. Maybe we just had one at the bar, or maybe we had 14 at the bar. I don't know, but right. We were at the bar. There's actually a picture of us that night at the bar. First picture we took together. And the cool thing is, man, him and I have became really good friends. We talk every day. He's really working hard. He's really starting to get it and understand it. And the good thing, he got in when he was 29. He's 29 in 2019. And I think that helps someone's mentality a lot if they get in later. Like I got in at 17 years old, man. Like I wasn't mentally ready for it. And, you grow up slow when you get in the business young. So he really got into it at a good age.
Yeah, and he had the pedigree of being a D1 athlete as well.
We've mentioned Dwayne Gill. Talk to us about that friendship, because we had him on the show, and then we saw you guys wrestle each other actually here in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you remember that, for a promotion called IWC, the International Wrestling Cartel. Where did that friendship start? Why are you guys so close?
Well, it's crazy. So he's known my family before I was born. He knew my mom, my dad, and he was good friends with my uncle, my mom's brother. So I remember seeing him as a kid and everything. But the first conversation I ever remember having with him, because I remember seeing him at cookouts and, or at the bowling alley with my parents and all. But I remember seeing him on TV, and it might he was wrestling Owen Hart. It might have been a tag match with Owen and the Anvil or somebody. But I remember he was in the ring Monday Night Raw against Owen Hart. And you can look it up, Dwayne Gill versus Owen Hart, and it might have been a tag match, but I remember him wrestling Owen. And the next day, man, I'm at my school, and I'm 9 years old at the time. It's crazy because my daughter's 9 now. And I'm at the school, and I see him, and he's doing maintenance work in my school. I think he's hanging a light bulb. He's up on a ladder. And I'm like, Mr. Dwayne, what are you doing? Ain't you a big wrestling star? What are you, what are you doing? And I'll never forget it. He's like, oh, hi, James. He goes, you'll understand one day. Little did I know I would completely understand, that now, I'm in the business. I understand now he was just a extra talent or jobber or what have you. And he wasn't under contract. He made $150 that day, and he had to go to work the next day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. So that's when so I've known him, like I said, since I was, a little kid, and we live now. It's funny. He just moved into my neighborhood. We just had lunch with each other today. We live in the same neighborhood now. It's crazy.
Nice. So maybe we'll run into you actually, because when MCW opens back up, Dwayne has invited us over for a cookout prior to us going to an MCW event.
Yeah, man. MCW's there, and then I run mine, ACW, here in Maryland, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling. Look that up, adrenalinewrestling.com. And if you guys are ever in the area for MCW, ACW, or any other event, just if you're going over Dwayne's, like I said, he literally, I could walk and get to his house in under 10 minutes.
Nice. Wow. We will not be walking, John, right? We don't.
Yeah, probably not.
We don't do that walking thing. You're still too fit for us, James. Too fit for us.
You guys will get on one of those line scoots where you scan your phone and then just.
I carry a hover around with me, and yeah, by nature I'm a garbage man, so I walk enough. When I don't have to walk, I want a Segway or something.
You haggle to the back of the truck. That's what you do.
It's exact. Thanks. You already know my skip. Yeah.
Hey, Dwayne he tried to get you in a chin lock during the course of that match. And that's one of the things I remember is about 3 or 4 times he tried to get you in a chin lock. And for some reason, you were able to slide right out. No, it was pretty funny. You guys were playing up, the fact that I guess you don't exactly have Sergeant Slaughter's chin, James.
Right. You remember when people used to try to power bomb Billy Kidman and he would automatically turn it into an X Factor?
Yes.
So the 2 things you got to know in wrestling is you can't power bomb Billy Kidman and you can't put James Ellsworth in a chin lock.
That's like death and taxes, right? Those are the only things available in wrestling. Yeah, guaranteed. Thanks. That's what I was looking for. What about some other training you're doing? Do you have anybody else, without releasing names or anybody that's pretty high up on the training right now that we should keep an eye on?
Well, it's funny, man. I really haven't gotten into training people in a while. I used to train people before I made it to WWE, but since WWE, Ben's the only person I've been training because I just saw him and I'm like, look, this guy belongs in the business. He's 6'10", 275, good-looking guy, great attitude. So, I've just focused my time that I do have, training him because, I feel like he could make it to one of the big companies. I'm not really interested in training people that just want to wrestle and have fun and all that. I'm more interested in training people that want to make it, to a WWE or, or what have you.
Okay.
Mark and I have watched some interviews with some different independent stars that have, been called up, not just a WWE brand, but anybody that's shooting a wrestling show that's going to be on TV. And some of them have talked about, without elaborating, they'll say you really learn a lot when you work on TV. I mean, can you speak to that? What do they mean by that? Is stuff just kind of getting chopped left and right? Were you told 15 and now you only have 5? What's the stress level like for a TV taping or a live show for that matter that makes it different than the Jaffa Shrine in Altoona, Pennsylvania?
Well, I mean, you've got to figure TV. Let's say you have 2 hours of television on SmackDown. It's on network television. You have to be dead by 10 o'clock. The show's over at 10 o'clock. You can't go over. So you got that. And then you got the placement of your body. If Carmella and I are doing a promo together backstage, we'd have to be really squeezed in because the camera's only so big so that the camera can pick us both up. You got, facial expressions. You're told not to look directly into the camera. The camera's a mirror. You're basically you're talking to the person that's interviewing you. You're not talking into the camera at the audience. You learn so much, man. But I'll tell you a funny story. Sometimes your time does get cut, but when you're over the UK, the show's taped and shown later on in the US. So this is just a great story. When I was wrestling Becky Lynch on that SmackDown in United Kingdom, I remember the referee, her and I were in some spot. And if you go back and watch that match, it's actually probably my best wrestling match there because we did some wrestling and it was just so fun that she wanted to do that because she saw my indie stuff and knew I could wrestle. So she just helped me and wanted to do that a little bit, even though my character didn't really call for a lot of wrestling in WWE. But so anyway, we're just laying there on the mat selling or something, and the referee's like, "You guys are 4 minutes over. You got to take it over." But I just remember her going, "Oh fuck, lad, it's taped. You can cut it later." She's so great, man. I am so happy for all her success. When she got real over and was at 2018 and 19 and became the man and got the main event of WrestleMania, she deserves all that. She's just a terrific person, a hard worker. She speaks up when you need to speak up. She's very polite. I'm just happy for everything she's accomplished.
Yeah. I didn't know she had F-bombs in her, James.
Well, if you're a wrestler, it just kind of, you don't even think about it anymore. It's just another word in your vocabulary. It's right now I just said one and I don't even know if it was okay to say one on the show.
Oh yeah. You're watching us drink beer as we talk to you. You should hear our weekly show when we're F-bombing everything. You're fine.
Oh, yeah, but it's just, it's just one of those wrestling things where you just hear it so much. It's just another word in your vocabulary, like the or is or are or a. It's just the same as all of them at this point.
we were talking about Becky Lynch. We were talking about Money in the Bank. I want to bring up when maybe we touched on this earlier, but when you came out dressed up as Asuka, you'd been off TV for whatever reason. And whenever Mark and I do the weekly show and we talk about releases, it always breaks our hearts. Like, what are they thinking? This guy was great or she was great. How could they not get over? So you weren't on TV for a while and we were bummed out. And then when you show up as Asuka, Mark and I were only half joking earlier before we called you up. We said it was probably the biggest pop of the night. And then we don't really see you all that much after. Like, what happened there? You came back, you helped Carmella beat Asuka, and then maybe almost just as quickly you were gone again.
So here's my guess, because I always was told you're doing a great job, you're doing very well. We need 10 of you, because if we did like a pre-tape backstage, a lot of times I would do it in one take. I was just having fun, and it's. To me, all wrestling at all levels kind of the same. So if I'm cutting a promo, it's just easy and fun for me. So everything was always went well. I don't know. Here's my guess, and this is just me thinking out loud. I don't know if this is true or not. It's just my guess. I didn't go through the Performance Center. I didn't go through NXT. They have time and money invested in the people that do. So a guy like me that's 5'8", 165 pounds, is just on TV. Yeah, the character always got reactions, and yeah, the character was over as a babyface and got over as a heel. But at the same time, I'm if somebody's beating me in a match, they're really not beating anyone. Because I'm just so small, and you're so if you do that a million times, it just gets stale. So maybe the character's just better showing up every now and then. Maybe that's what's in their head. And maybe they need TV time for the NXT guys and the guys that went through the PC because they have so much time and money invested in those people. That's my guess, man, because, I felt like you guys. I felt like the character was, people were into it and people enjoyed it. And it was so different from everything else on the show. So when they first released me, they just told me hey, this is for now. This is not forever. We feel like we're going to have something for you within a year. So just go out all the independents, enjoy yourself. And if you, still want to work here, don't sign with anybody else. That's up to you. But we feel like we'll have something for you within a year. So I think they probably, and again, just me guessing, they go, and Carmella has the Money in the Bank contract now. Does she really need him too? Because she has the contract, so and then once she cashed in, won the title, I was back 7 or 8 weeks later, helping her through the 2 pay-per-views with Asuka. And then once, they had her deemed to lose the title at SummerSlam, I was gone a couple weeks before that, so I wouldn't be at ringside with her for SummerSlam when she lost it. I don't know, just me guessing, thinking out loud, that's all. I have no bitterness towards it, though, man. I was on TV a lot in 2016, 2017, and 2018. So I did 3 years of television there, and I absolutely had a blast. To this day, I haven't been on TV in almost 3 years. If I go on Walmart, Target, go to an Orioles game or a Ravens game or where, I get recognized all the time, and that's really cool, and that's the power of WWE television. So, maybe they keep me and I become just a guy that gets beat up all the time and just chasing around the 24/7 title. Although I think Ellsworth and R-Truth for the 24/7 would be a funny couple of weeks.
Amazing. That would be great.
And what's the 24/7 title's kind of, in my opinion, I guess it's kind of it's not hot right now, right? It's just this, R-Truth's hilarious and great, but they're not really doing much with it, I guess. But yeah, so maybe every now and then I'm like a boogeyman or a hornswoggle or something where I come back every now and then, get a reaction that I'm gone again. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
Oh, all right. I thought you said you wanted a question, John. How was it? You brought up all the Carmella stuff, and that's actually you're reading our note cards. How was it working with Carmella? Because she seems legit a sweetheart. She's now in Pittsburgh, so you kind of run into her every once in a while. She's hanging out with Corey Graves. So how was it with Carmella?
Oh, she was great, man. We got along so well. We became friends. I still talk to her, text message her every now and then. She sent a video for my daughter on my daughter's birthday. Yeah, she's awesome, man. The one thing I say to describe her is she's very smart. She knows when to change up her character. She knows to wear different gear all the time at all the pay-per-views, when to reinvent herself. And I think, man, honestly, like, they're not doing enough with her. Like, the new character is great. Like, it was, like, I guess they had the new guy with the regional who I think he's very athletic and all. But it was when they were together, like, I would get a lot of tweets about it and all. I'm like, well, I don't think it's going to last because it doesn't really fit. And then it didn't last. I think they were together like 3 months.
But that, yeah.
Yeah. And it's nothing against him. I think he's awesome with, they could do more of the story with Nia Jackson. I think they're going to. But, like, I think, it's time for her to be on her own. And I think she could hold her own, like, weight now. Like, she's entertaining enough. People, I think, are really invested in her when she's on television. And, I think it's, like, time for her to stand on her own because, man, like, she got so much better in the ring, too. Her match with Sasha Banks at TLC, if you don't remember it or anyone out there listening doesn't remember it, go back and watch that match. It was an amazing match. And, and like, it just seems like sometimes she's on TV. It feels like she's been on TV like once a month in the last like 4 or 5 months. And I'm like, man, I'm always, rooting for her. And I'm always, like hoping she does well and hoping they do more with her. Cause man, when we were together, dude, that
was hot.
It helped her out so much, man. And I was glad to do that job for her. Like she, really, she became the first women's Money in the Bank winner. And then she became champion and all that. I'm like, man, like, and now I'm just hoping, she continues her success because she was nothing but awesome to me. And I really enjoyed my time with her for sure.
You mentioned how she reinvents herself, and you're absolutely right about that. She also stays true, I guess, it seems to me, to this concept she had of Carmella from the very beginning. And that's kind of a tough line to kind of toe, to kind of be true to who this character is, but still make some tweaks here and there. My point is whether she's a good guy or a bad guy, she makes the little adjustments, but you don't get a whole lot of change to that character. She still stays true to this idea she had in mind from day one of this character.
Well, like the new character is kind of like she comes out, she does a little dance, and wears like really nice clothes and all. Like, hey, she's a diva. Is her like new character? Like her old character, she's a smart ass from Staten Island, the princess of Staten Island. Comes out and talks like she's from New York and all that. But the new reinvention, she's just kind of like, hey, I'm hot. I know I'm hot. I'm the hottest thing in the WWE, and you guys know it, and I'm just flaunting it. It's kind of her new thing, and she just knows what she's doing, man. She's smart. I just wish they would do more with her, but that's up to them.
All right. For the record, she fooled me, Mark and James. She fooled me. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and when I looked into her background, I was like, wait, she's from Massachusetts. Her father was a wrestler. I didn't even feel betrayed. I was like, wow, okay, she fooled me. I thought she was an Italian girl from Staten Island.
Well, it's funny because like wrestling's like a movie. We're just playing characters. Like, a lot of people do use their hometown from where they come from and all that. But, she's just playing a character from Staten Island, and that's who she's playing. Like I use my hometown of Baltimore, and it's a shame because like they've been reinventing our arena for a while now, so I don't know when I'll ever get to wrestle in it, but it's just that'd have been great. But yeah, man, people got like it's funny with wrestling. You don't see like a lot of people going, line and crap on what a person did in a movie, like they didn't do this right or they botched this or they said this line's stupid. But in wrestling, our wrestling fans, they do that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that. There's times, pull down our fourth wall real quick. There's times that are like, oh man, that probably shouldn't have happened. But you never see that in a movie saying, well, that gun shouldn't have been in Dances with Wolves or whatever.
Right. It's just funny how it's just entertainment, man. We're live entertainment. That's the difference where we're doing our own stunts and our own stunts do hurt. Like that's the difference. Like anytime we take a bump, man, even or bumping and feet and getting right back up. That every bump hurts, every single one. You never get used to it. You never get used to pain. So that's the difference.
Tell us about the reverse choke slam because I just rewatched this today. And so we're talking to James Ellsworth. Let me watch some of his matches. The reverse choke slam from Braun Strowman. JR has always said you can't learn that. I mean, he face planted you. What's that like? Is he reckless, or is that what you're supposed to be doing?
No, so I took it perfectly. I turned my head and slapped my hand down to break the fall, and it didn't hurt me at all. But the reason why they stopped doing that move is because other people didn't know to do that. Like the other local competitors he was wrestling, they were getting face planted for real or landed on their heads. Or, not his fault. It's just I knew how to take it. I never took it before. I was like, oh, it's a face bump. So I'm like, oh, okay. I just jumped, and land flat on my chest and turned my head and smacked the mat to break my fall. And that's, exactly what I did. And, every bump hurts, like I said, but I didn't break my nose, didn't have a black eye, didn't.
No, honest to God, it looked devastating. It just looked like you ate the canvas.
Yeah, I love that finish. I wish he could have got it kept, but he couldn't keep it because so many people were taking it wrong. And again, that's not his fault.
I asked somebody on the independent circuit this earlier this week. You guys are all linked as, and I do my air quotes, I don't know if you see me, that you're actors now. Since Raw is a series of TV shows or AEW or anything that we talk about, do you like the persona of being an actor? Or, as we always say, you guys are freaking athletes?
We're a little bit of both. Not a little bit of both. We are both. We have to act, we have to read scripts and all, and we have to, what you see in the ring is athleticism. So yeah, we're both. That's why it's called sports. That's why I love the term sports entertainment, because there's sport in there and there's entertainment in there, and that's what we do. And we're actors and we're athletes. So yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw a shoot a while back with Terry Funk where he says, I've never been an actor in my life, which first of all isn't true because he's been in movies, so he has been an actor.
Right, yeah, he was in movies.
Yeah, but he was in a Patrick Swayze movie.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse, that's it. Thank you, Mark. But he also, you come to find out he and the Junkyard Dog were good friends. So when he says he hates JYD and he's going to do this to him and that to him, he's performing. So yeah, I don't know why some of the old timers have a hang up.
It's just the way they were taught. It's just embedded in their head to protect the business. I get it. And I wish it was still like that, to be honest. I mean, unfortunately, it's not, dude. The business has changed so much, and just my personal opinion, it's changed for the worse. Just with the social media and the way the boys will talk bad about the other boys, and how everybody's business out there, and all these, a lot of untrue stories and a lot of people's dirty laundry. I hate it, man. All that stuff used to be kayfabe, and it's no one's business like it should be, and it's just everything's changed now. And I just wish everybody would, we're just trying to put on a show, make some money, and have some fun, and everyone should just be cool and do that. But it's just not like that anymore, dude. It sucks.
But in that regard, James, are some of the changes good, like working less, not doing 10 shows in 1 week, maybe making more money? Do you think some of those changes are for the better?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I have a family. I have, my fiance, my 2 daughters I live with, and I enjoy being home, 4 or 5 days a week and only working 1 or 2 wrestling, and man, it's gotten to the point where this weekend, if I'm wrestling somewhere, if I'm going to Wisconsin or somewhere, I'm sad when I leave for the 2 days, because now I'm used to being home with them and helping them with their virtual learning and stuff like that, and hanging out. My fiance is literally my best friend. We get along so great, man. We enjoy our time around each other. And so, yeah, man, a lot of that, I think it helps the boys so much because they have a better home life. And then when they're only on the road 1 or 2 days a week doing a Raw and a SmackDown and maybe a pay-per-view, I think it is better, man. That change, I'm not saying all change is bad. I'm saying all the negativity that's out there and, everybody's crap, but that's the bad part. But no, people getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to work a couple times a week and reserving their bodies and having an actual life outside of wrestling that, wrestling's not consuming their life. Yeah, that's great. Dude, I remember my first tour at WWE was 3 weeks. I went to the UK. We did TV and then went to UK for 2 weeks. And then we came back and we did TV and a pay-per-view Survivor Series. I was gone for 3 weeks, and my daughter was a year and a half old at the time, my youngest daughter.
That sucks.
And I came home and she she grew 6 to 8 inches in that 3 weeks. And I was like, holy crap. When I got back, she looked like a different kid. I was like, what the, because I was gone, not like, but that was my dream and it was cool. But yeah, I'm happy for the guys now that are there. They're only working 1 or 2 days a week. And man, it's just so, much better for your mental health, like to have that family time and not be gone all the time. And it's better for your family. It's better for you. And yes, I hope it stays that way. I really do.
Do you think some of the stuff you mentioned earlier, though, that you said used to be kayfabe, do you think that some of the guys are working there too? Like on Twitter, I don't like you and you don't like me, but really we're just riling up the fans for our match?
Yeah, of course there's that. Like, I would do that with a Becky Lynch or an AJ Styles or whoever I was, or John Cena, whoever I was wrestling, I would do that with. Of course there's that. But I'm talking about two people that have nothing to do with each other, that aren't even in the same company. Like,
right.
Like, there's no call for that. Man. Like, it's to me, like, if I have an issue with someone, believe it or not, I go to them and talk to them about it, whether it be on the phone, whether it be in their DMs, or whether it be I like doing it in person. That's sitting down and going, hey man, here's my issue, and talk. Like, that's, I just, how I handle things. Like, I love people. I get along with everybody, but like it, I see that stuff online where one company's burying another, or somebody from one company's burying another, or somebody's burying this person or saying that. I'm like, really? If you really have an issue, just talk to that person. Why? On a smaller level, I saw 2 indie guys doing it the other day that I knew both of them, and I contacted both of them. I was like, hey, why don't you guys just talk to each other? Then like a day later, they called me. They're like, hey man, we contacted each other and we worked it all out. We're cool. I'm like, man, wasn't that easy? Instead of like airing your dirty laundry on Facebook and Twitter, wasn't that easy just to talk to each other? And now you're cool, and now now all the tweets and all the Facebook statuses are taken down. Like, ain't that, so it's just common sense, man. I don't know.
Social media is a great thing to keep people connected, but social media is a horrible thing to keep people connected, right?
Right, absolutely. It works both ways.
Yeah. So you brought up 2 huge names, and of course, we always save this kind of at the tail end. So we're working with Cena and AJ Styles, 2 of the greatest. Any stories there? Because you were main event status. You were there. You were kicking Dean Ambrose's ass, and it was just awesome,
dude. So yeah, I mean, when you're like me, and at the time I was in a business 14 years. Like you said, you saw me at a show in Altoona before I ever made it WWE, and it's cool that your kid remembered me. And you get on TV and you're working with the WWE champion, who was AJ Styles at the time. Then you're working in matches like we did the one match in Scotland where on TV where it was Dean Ambrose, Kane, and I against Randy Orton, Luke Harper, and Bray Wyatt. Like, you go working like little independents to, oh my God, you're in Scotland in front of 15,000 people working in the main event with all these, big stars, and you're wrestling for the world title, and then yeah, dude, it was just a blessing, man. I very much enjoyed it. I'm very humble about it, and I just I wouldn't trade it for the world, having that success and being in those spots.
Tell us just a little bit quickly about like the locker room atmosphere, because Mark and I, our heyday was the 80s, but looking back on that, you hear so many stories of fights in the locker room, and this guy didn't like that guy. We haven't really heard anything like that in a number of years. So it seems like the locker room is a more peaceful place than it used to be. Is that the case, or do you still get some tiffs here and there?
Well, yeah, dude, the SmackDown 2016, 2017 locker room was the best locker room I've ever been involved in. We all got along. We all were having fun. And, 2017, I think it might have been May of 2017, they did the damn brand split and messed it all up. And, oh, my God, it ruined it. And, because, we had a couple of guys that were all come over, and they weren't the most, I won't say their names, I don't stooge on anybody, not just the old school in me. But they were, just the most annoying people and the most, they just, her attitude. And it just, our locker room wasn't like that on SmackDown, dude. Everybody was cool. We all had fun together. None of us fought. we all enjoyed each other's company. Like, you know, if there was an issue, we talked it over. Like, it was great, man. It was seriously the best time professionally in my life because everyone was so cool. I remember that first tour I was talking about in November. I remember we were on the tour bus, and, you know, like, I'm the new guy, and Jack Swagger, who's now Hager, and Heath Slater, they had me in the back of the bus, and everybody's sitting around me. And Jack Swagger goes, hey, pour me this bottle of vodka. And it was a big cup of ice, and it was just a bottle of vodka. He's like, pour me this bottle of vodka. So I poured the vodka into the cup with, you know, full of ice. And he looks at me and he goes, now drink it. And I go, oh, guys, I'm terribly sorry. I don't drink. And everyone got quiet. And I go, just kidding. And I chugged it. They all popped. Yeah. That's just an example of the fun we had. And, you know, it's just like any other job, man, where you have your one or two assholes or whatever that you don't like seeing at work. And, you know, but we didn't have that. We really, really just got along. And, man, I got there in July of 2016 was my match with Strowman. So my first SmackDown was September of 2016. And from September 2016 to May 2017, that time period, it's the most fun I've ever had in the business. And that awesome locker room had a lot to do with it. But, you know, before we move on, like Brody Lee, Luke Harper, he was the most fun person to be around. He was just such a fun guy. He was funny. He was great in the ring. Go back, watch his 2017 match at Elimination Chamber with Randy Orton. What an outstanding match that was. And he was my favorite person to be around at WWE. Our whole relationship, him and I had, was just making each other laugh. It got to the point where we would just see each other. You know, it'd be the beginning of the day. We'd see each other backstage or at the airport, and we would just start smiling because we knew it was time to act like, you know, little kids and just make fun of each other, make fun of somebody. And like, so I loved being around him, and God rest his soul and all that. But yeah, I said this on my Twitter, I think publicly, he was my favorite person to be around because he was just so positive and so fun. And, you know, like just, it was just, you know, I laugh every time I think about being around him because it was just such a great time. He was like the class clown in the locker room. We all loved him, and we all had I'll always cherish those memories with him.
You look at some of the stuff that he did with the Dark Order, and I guess to your point, James, without ever breaking, without ever cracking or anything, we fans could tell like he was having a good time, and the wrestlers around him were having a good time. The way he berated the Dark Order or smacked stuff out of their hands, you know, he played it seriously, but they were having fun. So, you know, we as viewers were having a good time right along those guys.
Oh man, he was just he would just, you know, like he loved Charlotte. Like they were just like, we'd be at the airport or at anywhere, like at a rent a car or whatever. If he saw Charlotte, he would just get everybody to do the woo, like, you know, I mean, just as a rib. And then like, we were at some show, and he's just playing around, right? He's about to walk out. Like at house shows, we'd have a small TV right by the curtain usually before people go out. And he's walking to the curtain, about to go out for his match. We're all sitting there watching the match, and he's looking around. And he goes, "Where's Charlotte?" And we're like, "I don't know, in the locker room or wherever." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And he goes and he has his match, and he comes back and he goes, "Oh, Charlotte's still not here?" We're like, "No." And we don't even know what he's talking about. With him, it could be anything. So he sits down and he's watching the other matches, and Charlotte comes out for a match, ready to go through the curtain. He goes, "Oh, hi, Charlotte. You didn't watch your match. You didn't watch my match, but I'm going to watch yours." Just like that, so subtle. And she's like, "What?" You know? And then it just messing with her. He's just fun like that. Like, it's just a small example. He's just so fun. And then the most I ever made him laugh is my least favorite thing I did WWE, and I didn't mind doing it. It's just I didn't think it was entertaining for the crowd, and that just was in my head. Like, when they had me do that stuff where, like, Carmella had me on the dog leash, which most men would love to be in that position, I'm sure, but I just...
Yep, my hand's up in the air.
And, like, I just didn't find it entertainment. I'm like, all right, man, I'm supposed to be like this underdog character that this girl is using, but now she's got me like barking like a dog. It's kind of not entertaining. I thought anyway. But, and so we're sitting there catering one day, and Luke Harper's like, he's like, dude, like, what is this dog thing? It sucks. Right? And I was like, yeah, I know. And he goes, well, why don't you just tell him that it sucks and it's stupid? I said, hey, man, and this is the most I made him laugh. I said, hey, man, I don't have to bump. And he goes, yeah. And I go, more barks and less bumps. And he just starts laughing. Like, and oh man, I really wish. I think the last time I personally talked to him was it might have been my birthday, December 11th of 2019 or whatever. He just texted me wishing me a happy birthday. It was one of my birthdays. He messaged me and wished me a happy birthday and all. And he was great, man. I can't say enough good things about him.
So stoic on camera, and I mean this the nicest way because this is me as well, an ass behind the stage. Those are the people that I love. Those are the stories that we need to hear more of. So thank you for letting more people know about Brody Lee. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, man, he was the best.
One other quick question before we let you go and tell us where you're going to be and everything like that. Being where, this might sound backhanded, I don't mean it, but being where you were on the card, that you were always like with AJ or with Carmella, how often did you actually see Vince? Like when you showed up at SmackDown or Raw or anything that you were at, did you get to interact with Vince a lot?
Yeah, so I remember being in a couple of meetings with him, and then I would always see him in the gorilla position, like before or after a match, and I would always make sure after my match or after Carmella's match or just after any segment I did on SmackDown or a pay-per-view or whatever, I would go up to him and say, thank you for the opportunity. I would say that to him after everything I did because he's the one that hired me. Like after the Strowman match, I remember going to the back, and this is another just funny story. Like when you're an extra, you're not supposed to come down the ramp. You're supposed to they have this weird thing where you walk through the crowd and walk through the bell keeper's tape and you get in the ring. So
yep.
I remember I walked out of Gorilla and down the ramp, but I wasn't supposed to. And I get in the ring, and the referee goes, you weren't supposed to walk down the ramp. I was like, oh man, I'm just so nervous. I forgot. I'm sorry. So I cut the promo, say any man with two hands is a fighting chance, all that cool stuff. I have the match with Strowman, which it's funny. It's like a minute and a half long match, and I consider it my best match ever because it got me a job. But I get to the back, and Arn Anderson's like, hey, he's like, kid, you did great, but he goes, Vince wants to see you. And I'm like, oh shit, he's going to yell at me for walking down the ramp. He's going to tell me I'm never allowed here again. And this is, so I'm walking real slowly to the gorilla position. I'm like, Vince McMahon's about to fucking chew me out. I was like, he's about so I get to the gorilla and he's walking down the steps. He's like, Ellsworth, come here. I'm like, he's saying my name. You remember my name? I know they just said it on television, but what the hell? So I go up to him. He's like, man, pal, great job. And he shakes my hand. He goes, I'm going to hire you. I'll be in touch. And he walked away. I'm like, he's going to hire me? What? What is he talking about? And then 6 weeks later, he called me. It was my first, my second conversation ever with him. That was my first one I just told you. And he called me, hey, pal, I didn't forget about you. We'll be calling you soon. And then that week, I got called for SmackDown in Philly, which was cool because it was only an hour and a half from my house.
Right. Nice.
Yeah, so it was a drive. And I went up and did that. And that night at SmackDown in Philly, he's, hey, pal, I'm going to hire you. I was like, man, he remembers all that. He's a man of his word. And then, he hired me. And so that's why I'll never say a bad thing about that, man. He took a kid that I know I'm not GQ looking. I know I'm not in great shape. I know I'm not tall. And I'm not even the most athletic. But he saw something in me. He saw somebody that can be entertaining and can be fun for the audience. And he hired me because of that. And so, I would talk to him every time after I did a segment, like I said. And there's been a few times where Carmella and I were in meetings with him. And I remember one time, it was right before WrestleMania 33, the WrestleMania I got to be on. He goes, man, I really want this to work. What we need to do to get this to work? Because right now it's not working. And up to that point, the only thing I was doing was help her beat local girls, extra talent girls. I didn't help her beat a girl in the main roster yet. And I remember going, well, sir, with all due respect, I think as soon as I help her beat one of the girls on the main roster, I think, we'll get booed, we'll get heat. He's like, well, let's do that tonight. And then with that night, I think I helped her. I think it was Becky Lynch. I helped her beat that night on SmackDown. I mean, the crowd booed us out of the building. And we get to the back. He's like, "You hear that? Ha ha! Now it's working."
That's a great pitch, by the way.
Yeah, and to me, I was like, man, I don't really think I was that hard to figure out. But dude, he has so much to worry about and so much on his mind. It's like, dude, he gets bashed more than anyone in the business. And you want to know why? Because if there's a bad Raw, a bad SmackDown, a bad pay-per-view, a bad segment, he's the one getting bashed. You know why? Because he's the most successful person in wrestling history. He's the only one ever to become a billionaire with a B off of wrestling. The only one. And I dare to say he's going to be the only one ever to become a billionaire off of wrestling. And that's because at the end of the day, he's smarter than us all. He is a genius.
I will echo that. Yeah, I really will. I don't know, since we're short on time, and I want to get this last question in, then I'll let you promote. One, are you happy, and have you lived your dream? Okay, so touch on that. And then two, if you could book any match for you in the world, what is your dream match, and where would you want it to happen?
Well, like I touched on earlier, I think on the independent level, it would be with Spike Dudley if he'd be willing to do it. I don't know if he's working anymore just because I really respect him and his work. And right now, man, I think, if the Ellsworth character came back to WWE, what would people want the Ellsworth character to do? And I think it would be feud with R-Truth for a month, before, you can't go too long with it or it just gets old and stale. But I think if I came back and a masked guy hooked R-Truth's leg, won the 24/7 title, and he's like, what the hell? And I took off the mask. It was me. I think it would be more positive, negative. Of course, you'd have your trolls and all that believe in bullshit stories saying stuff. But I think people would be like, holy shit, that's great. And then so to me, that's when I watch Raw or whatever, man, if they did that, I think people would like it. And I'm not a belt mark that wants to win a belt, but the James Ellsworth character just fits so well with that story with the 24/7 title. I think people would love that,
Yeah, for sure. So where are you going to be? I know Maryland's just starting to open back up. Other places are around, but you said Wisconsin. Are you traveling? What's coming up with you here in the near future?
Yeah, I have. I got a lot of surprise appearances coming up because I like to do that. And then. I mean, there's actually a lot of them coming up. It's just funny how that worked out. Then, man, my show is Adrenaline Wrestling that I run. Like I said, adrenalinewrestling.com. We should be, like you said, opening back up soon. I think our first show is going to be in August. I can't really say yet because we're not allowed to say yet because of the Maryland State Athletic Commission. But that'll be in August. We'll be a part of Icons of Pro Wrestling in Philly in September, and in November I know WrestleCade. I love doing those conventions. I love meeting fans at conventions, man. They come up to with your action figures. And
are you really going to be there again? Because I already have my tickets. I'm excited about it again.
Which one?
WrestleCade again this year.
Yeah, yep, I'll be a part of that. They're going to announce Gilbert and I together. They haven't announced this yet, but we got confirmation on that this week. I was there in 2019. I met a lot of people, had a lot of fun, and it's when you do stuff like that, that's really cool, man. Because wrestling fans always say wrestling fans are the worst fans in the world online, but the best fans in the world in person. Because in person, wrestling fans are so cool, so genuine, so just appreciative of the entertainment they've received from you. I love meeting wrestling fans in person, man. I absolutely love it. And that's why I like to do. There's WrestleCons, WrestleCades, Icons of Pro Wrestling. We just had the Baltimore Celeb Fest here in Maryland that did real well a couple weeks ago, the big convention. And they're doing it again in October. I'll be a part of that, October 16th.
We got our tickets for that too.
Yeah, man. And hopefully I'll be running a wrestling show right after that convention, so to hang tight with that too.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, dude. Then the Grimm's Toy Show stuff. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I go there and I wrestle there once a month for Grimm's Toy Show with the Silly Pop YouTube channel. They got 1.3 million subscribers.
Yep.
And it's just, it's like, I call it the Weird Al. I call him the Weird Al Yankovic of wrestling because he just makes fun of wrestling. Like, if they have WrestleMania, he calls it Grim Mania. If they had just had, if they have Fast Lane, he calls it Fat Lane. Stuff like that. Like, Money in the Bank's food in the fridge. So, dude, he's a great guy. It fits my character well to go there and do stuff. And now, I've become Ellsworth the Clown on there, where I'm like this evil clown. Like, society has cracked me, and I've turned into this evil clown because everyone's always said I'm a joke and I'm a clown, so now I am a clown. And the joke's on everybody else because now I'm going to destroy everybody. That's just a cool thing to do. So check that out if you haven't. Silly Pop YouTube channel, Grimm's Toy Show. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. All right, we'll let you go. I know you got a lot going on. Thank you for spending some time with us here on Can Crushers tonight. And I'll say it, we'll see you definitely at Baltimore Slugfest 2, and then we'll also see you at WrestleCade. So I'm excited for both of those.
Yeah, man. Take care, guys. God bless. Stay safe. And remember, any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll stay in touch.
So we heard from James Ellsworth. Again, sort of you reached out to him last minute. He was kind enough to get right back to you, and I'm glad he did because this was a lot of fun. Some things we didn't know. He was very close to Jon Huber, known as Luke Harper in the WWE, and Brody Lee in AEW. Told us some funny stories we obviously didn't know, but I kind of gathered that Jon Huber was a jokester because, like we mentioned during the course of this interview, he looked like he was having a good time. He allowed all us fans to have a good time right along with him.
John, and that's why I love doing these interviews, these spotlights, because talent like James Ellsworth or Gilbert, when we talk to him, kind of bring it down a little bit and let us know about people that had passed. And like you said, he was having a blast. But to hear that he was a Charlotte fan, how many people know that he was just ribbing on Charlotte the whole time, saying, "Oh, you didn't watch my match? I'll still watch yours, though." And that's like something we would do to each other about, "Oh, you didn't watch my kid play baseball? Well, I'm here to watch Sylvan."
Right. Yeah, that's a great behind-the-scenes story. Some really good perspective on, the heat coming down on Vince McMahon when a Raw sucks or a pay-per-view sucks. That's a great point that he made, but not just the fact that, the guy's a billionaire. It also, to a certain extent, starts and ends with the talent. The success or failure of any given story or show. And credit to James Ellsworth and all the other men and women who work there. Vince comes to you at a moment's notice and says, "Hey, this isn't working. What do you suggest?" I imagine you better have something in mind pretty damn fast. And James Ellsworth did, So these entertainers, these men and women, they're the top of the line. And you could put them on the spot and they're going to entertain you. And case in point here with James Ellsworth, he had an idea of where that particular story should go. And he thought it up at a moment's notice when Vince asked him for his input.
He remembers the Jaffa Mosque. That's what I like.
Yeah.
He remembers that, and he remembers almost spraying Ethan in the face, essentially. Yeah. So that was cool. And he listened to what he said, that he's like, "Man, I love that your son remembers me." And we always talk about, Ethan kind of being out of wrestling a little bit, but he always wants to know who we're talking to on Can Crushers in case he sees them, because listen, he loves the IWC guys, so he knows the Wardlows, the Brits, the Palaces, and stuff like that. But I'm like, "Yeah, I'm talking to James Ellsworth." And he's like, "Did I see him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think you saw him, when he was at the Jaffa Mosque." He's like, "Oh, that's Hairspray guy." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you going to tell him that he almost got me in the face?" And I'm like, "Wow, if you want me to, buddy." "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Oh, I missed that, didn't I?" So stuff like that. That's why I love these spotlights, John. I really do.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it here again. I don't think you get this level of satisfaction from any other form of entertainment than pro wrestlers. How many people have we met? Just for example, Coco Beware comes to mind. And he said, "Hey, Coco, we saw you at such and such." And he's like, "I remember that. Here's what happened." I mean, just a random place and time taking up one brain cell. And these guys can just retrieve that, at a moment's notice. It's really satisfying if you're a fan of these guys. Like we are, and James Ellsworth, same deal, can kind of remember dates and times and places, and that means a lot to us fans.
It does. It really does, John, and I'm glad you touched on that, because that just proves that, all right, some people might say, and this is probably where I'll get shit on from the wrestling world, wrestlers might be, air quotes, like meatheads or whatever, but they think they're bulky and this, that, and the other thing. They're geniuses, though, because they have to come up with kind of help their own gimmick and this, that, and the other thing. At the same part, like you said, John, I can't remember what I ate yesterday. Yet, James Ellsworth remembers 6 years ago spraying Ethan in the face.
Right, at the, in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Yep.
That's amazing minds that they have. It really is. So
yeah, they wouldn't be where they are if that weren't the case, to be honest.
Touche. I love the passion he still has for the WWE, and he talks about everybody, and knowing that locker room for SmackDown had so much fun. I love that. It's these stories, John. You picked it. You said you liked the fantasy show the best a couple weeks ago on Ask Can Crushers. This is why I do Spotlights, John. This is why I invite you on Spotlights, so you can hear awesome stories from the man like James Ellsworth.
I appreciate you having me on.
All right, John, let's wrap this one up. You want to go first? I'd like to end it this time.
Sure. Remember, Mark, just because you're trash, it doesn't mean you can't do great things.
It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.